And we're recording. Are you ready? Because that was saucy. Here we go. The beginning. I just got told by my producer, Jessica, that I need to fade the music more. Here we go. All right. Welcome, everyone, to an episode of Teen Talk, a podcast where we get a chance to dive into the mental health and the perspective of today's youth. We will be discussing real-life mental health problems and talking about how mental health affects our teens. Each podcast will have teens from our community talking about their mental health and wellness and bringing awareness in an anonymous format, unfiltered with current issues. Let's get a chance to know each other. And first, let me introduce my lovely co-host, Jessica Walling.
Hey everyone, I'm Jessica. And Dalen and I here, we work at Nexus Youth and Family Services Therapy Department. And we are here to bring on some exciting discussions today about Teen Talk. Back to you, Dalen.
Yeah, I don't know if what I do is considered work. I think I show up and I clickety-click on my keyboard sometimes and I talkity-talk with people in the office. I think before we get started today, though, we want to encourage everyone to be aware of their feelings on mental health issues. Know that the topics we discuss are pretty heavy and can be triggering for those that are listening, and listeners should be conscious of their own mental health needs and seek help if needed. This podcast is not meant to be therapy or advice to the listener. If you feel you need support, please reach out to Nexus. If we can't help you, we can help you find services and other referrals to your local area. Our website is www.nexusyfs.org, and that's www.nexusyfs.org. And our phone number is 209-257-1980. And hit extension 101, 209-257-1980, extension 101. And if you find yourself in a psychiatric emergency, please dial 911, or we have a new number for suicide emergencies, which is 988. So you can dial 988. And you can text to the number 741-741, and you can reach a counselor if you like to text. I do know that I don't like to argue with somebody personally in person, and so oftentimes I will text my arguments. I'm not sure if that's a healthy way of doing it, but sometimes text is easier to do that. We have our first guest for this morning, and I'd like to introduce the wonderful Bridgette to you. That is an alias, so that's not Bridgette's real name, but we're going by Bridgette today. We're keeping all of our underage clients' identities confidential. So, Bridgette, we're happy to have you in studio today. We would really like to hear about your stories and kind of how mental health is going for you. So just kind of start off, when we talk about mental health, I think we're being made aware more and more about mental health. Mental health is in school. You know, teachers are talking about it. There's programs that come on and talk about it. It's in social media all over the place. So sometimes it can be a really big, like, oh, mental health. But what does it mean to you? Like, what is mental health to you?
I don't know how to answer that.
And go ahead and put the mic a little closer.
Like, what do you mean? What is it?
So when you think of mental health, and you struggle with certain things, right? And we'll get into that. So when you hear that people talk about mental health, does a particular thought come up to you like, oh, this is what mental health is? Or people have mental health disorders, or everybody's, all my friends are depressed. Like, what does that word mental health mean to you?
Mental health is like someone... I don't really know how to answer that.
Just when you think of mental health and why you are coming here to therapy, what is it? What do you think about when you hear the words mental health?
My well-being and my mind state.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So when you and your friends are having any kind of issue, okay, and they're going through problems and stuff, and they're maybe sad or going through some sort of anxiety and stuff, what does that look like or sound like for you? Like, what do you think about when you guys are going through something? Do you think about, we need to get help, mental health is big, all of our teachers are talking about it, or is it something that really doesn't exist?
I feel like it doesn't exist. Not to me. It doesn't. It exists to me, but like I feel like it's ignored about like with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And when my friends mention their mental health, I get worried, or like I worry about them.
Does it feel like something
okay.
maybe serious for you? Like,
Yeah.
like it's a serious topic talking about mental health. There's still a lot of stigmatism around it. But when you think of your friends and it being, you worrying about it, what is it that you worry about?
I worry about them. I don't know. A lot of my friends, they've came to me about like committing suicide, or like trying to find an easy way out. And yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I forgot what you said already.
So you hear mental health with your friends and you think suicide?
Yeah, usually that's what a lot of my friends come to me about. It gets to that point where they don't talk to me about like their mental health for a while, and then they feel so alone that they come to me and they're like on the verge of ending things. And that's usually how it is. It's like people don't really reach out for help till they're at their breaking point.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can be really scary, especially when every time you're dealing with what mental health is and what it means, it's something really heavy and scary, right? So now we know you and I have been working together for a while, and part of you coming to therapy was your choice. You knew that you had things you wanted to deal with, where you wanted to be. But before you came to therapy, how have you done therapy before you came to see me? Is it something that you've done before, or was this your first time doing it?
I did therapy when I was like 8 or 9, and I went for a little bit. It wasn't really like, I kind of felt uncomfortable with the lady that I had as a counselor, and she didn't really try to make a bond with me. She kind of just went straight to all the trauma, which is kind of like, I felt like I couldn't talk to her about things. And then I had another counselor last summer, or this summer, and she ghosted me. Like, I was going through a court case, and she said she was gonna meet me after the court date, and then I never heard from her again after that.
And that was this summer, right?
I think it was like March of 2020.
And you and I, we've been working together for a couple of months now and working really hard on creating those goals. But before you came to see me, what did you think of therapy? Like, you've had this, you did it when you were 8 or 9, and it wasn't really like it was super heavy, like let's push the trauma. Then you have another therapist who ghosted you and you really didn't get to work. So what did therapy look like before, and what made you make the choice to come?
I know that there's good therapists out there. You just have to find the right one, and usually you go through a lot of people go through a lot of therapists before they find the right one. So I knew that I needed to go to therapy, so I kind of just like forced myself to go, and then I ended up liking it, and it helped a lot afterwards.
Oh, I thank you.
I think what you said is so important. You said that, there's a lot of therapists out there, and you got to find the right one.
Yeah.
I think for me, that's one of the things I stress to all my clients. I may not be the right therapist for you. Go find somebody that is. And not all types of therapy works for everybody. Sometimes, a particular therapist their style might be talk therapy, which we call psychoanalysis. And that might not work for somebody. Somebody might be into art therapy. Somebody might, brain spot or EMDR. I mean, there's a ton of therapies out there, and a ton of therapists that use multiple modalities. But then you've also got the personality, right? You go in and you talk to somebody and you're like, I'm just not gelling with that therapist. Get a new one. There's a lot of therapists out there, and I know that sometimes, like right now, people are finding it hard to find therapists with openings. But just because you're not working well with a particular therapist doesn't mean that therapy is not for you.
No, exactly. And, since I've started working and I've run into people just even in a store that like want to pick my brain and ask me questions about things because they don't feel like it's going well, my biggest advice is that your mental health is what's most important to you, and you have to fight for that. If this isn't working for you, tell your therapist, because the therapy room is your safe space. It's not mine. I'm not there for me. We're there for you. And so, and I told Bridget at the very beginning, if she didn't like me, it's okay. She can pick someone else. She stuck it out with me so far. She puts up with me. Yeah. So now that you're doing, you're going to therapy.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to make that change. I still have to deal with Jessica.
We all have our crosses to bear.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So now, back to topic at hand here. So now that you've been doing therapy for a while, okay, a couple of months now, and you've been working on things, how would you describe going to therapy to a peer? Like, they're thinking about it, but they're not quite sure, they're not quite comfortable with it. How would you describe it to them?
Describe therapy to other people?
Like, describe it to, your best friend who may need to go to therapy and they don't quite feel like they're ready. They're worried, they're nervous, but they know that you go and they're coming to you and saying, hey, what's it like? How would you describe it to them?
Well, once you find the right therapist, it might take a while, then honestly, just build a bond with them, and as long as you guys are similar, and you have common interests, it doesn't always have to be like that, but
all right, guys, we had to take a quick pause. There was something going on crazy in the background, but we are back. Let's try that question one more time. Your friend comes to you, they're worried, they got stuff going on, but they don't know what therapy looks like, and they know that you go. How would you describe it to them?
honestly, at first, I thought that therapy was kind of not it, but then I found the right therapist and I formed a bond with her, and I feel like now I can work through so many of my problems. So far, I've overcome my fear of going into the stores by myself, and just my social anxiety has gone down a lot, and you don't really realize that little things affect you until you go to therapy and talk them out and work through those things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now we've talked about how you're working on these things and you have that social anxiety. Excuse me. We're just having all kinds of difficulties with me today. So with those, can you tell our listeners before coming to therapy what that anxiety looked like for you, okay? Like worst case scenario, the worst day I had, this is what it looked like. Kind of explain that to them so they kind of know what's been going on.
The first week of school, I was really excited to go to school, and then I ended up going, and every day in the morning I would get such bad anxiety that I'd throw up, and it got so bad that my parents eventually took me out of school. I didn't know that it was anxiety, but then I realized, once I got taken out of school, that the throwing up went away, and I wasn't, and every time after that I got anxious, my stomach got, this weird feeling, and I felt like I wanted to throw up, just like I did for that week of school.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. I got to jump in here.
Go ahead.
So anxiety is typically it's a fear. Something is going to happen. What do you know specifically what was what you were afraid of? What was bringing up the anxiety? What was bringing up the vomiting? What was it that you were afraid of?
I wasn't really afraid of anything. I was excited to go to school and actually get the high school experience, but I think it was just me not knowing anybody and being able to be around people that I know, because that's one of my biggest issues. If I don't know somebody in a crowd, I'm going into a crowd by myself that I don't know, then I get really scared.
Okay, so you were worried about all of the people that you didn't know, the crowds of kids there that you didn't know, and whatever could happen.
Yeah.
That's what was causing you anxiety.
Yeah.
And it was so overwhelming that it was giving you physical symptoms.
Yeah.
So vomiting, nauseousness, What else was happening to you?
It was just the vomiting and nauseousness.
And how long would that last?
That lasted like the morning, and then I'd go to school and I'd have a stomachache all day. Some days I would throw up in the bathroom, but I lived so far that I couldn't go home, so I just stuck it out. I forgot what I was saying.
Well, I had asked you the physical symptoms that you were having from your anxiety. So it was vomiting, and it would happen throughout the day. So even if you got through the beginning part of the day, it was still affecting you throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah, until I got home.
And then when you got home, what happened?
I was just fine. Like,
It all went away.
I felt okay, and then it would come back the next morning.
Yeah.
You know, Bridgette and I have talked, and one of her things that we discussed was like the perfect picture. Because it's not that Bridgette doesn't like to be social. She loves to hang out with people and loves to be social. It's the unknown that's hard for her, that causes this great panic inside of her. And that is something that we've been working towards, going into a place unknown and being able to walk through those doors. And like she said earlier, she's made a great step being able to do those things. But you also have other things going on that can affect you, because you have some medical stuff going on.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, if you're comfortable?
Yeah. When I think I was 8 or 9, I got diagnosed with morphea scleroderma, which is...
Oh, can you say that again into the mic a little bit? Because that was a big word.
Really slow. Say it out.
Morphea scleroderma.
And then let's tell our listeners what that is.
Basically, it's like a hardening of my tissue underneath my skin, and I have to go get treatments for it at the cancer center. It's not cancer treatments, it's just like infusions that they have to do there. And I take a weekly shot called Actemra for my rheumatoid arthritis. And I have Hashimoto also, which is a thyroid disorder.
And what is Hashimoto's disease? What does that do to you?
It slows down my thyroid, I think. I don't remember.
Okay.
So you have all these other things that are like physically going on with you, inside and out. And then you have trying to go to school, meet new people. And those are things that have just kind of built up inside of you. You have these anxieties and fears. Now, you said your parents decided to pull you out of school. So what does school look like for you right now?
Before, every time I've tried in person, my grades have dropped like down to D, Fs, and it was bad. But ever since I've been on independent studies, my grades have been at A's, and I haven't let them down since I got them up. I don't have motivation to do it most of the time, but when I start doing it, I'm usually just finish it all, and so I'm done for the whole week. And then I meet my teacher once a week and give my work to her, and then she gives me my new work for the week.
So you talk about wanting to go back to high school. I mean, you're getting your education, right? I mean, that's what people get at high school, right? They get an education. So tell our listeners what it is about high school that you're wanting out of it, because you're already getting an education, but there's something else that you want out of high school.
I want to get the, what's the word for it?
Social.
The social experience, I guess. And I have friends, but, I kind of keep to myself, because, I don't really want to get close with anybody. And, I don't know, I just feel like being at real normal school would give me more opportunities to work on my social battery, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So now you talk about how you don't really want to get to know more people. That sounds a lot like a trust, like getting to trust people with yourselves. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit about...
Quick question. You said trust people with yourselves. Self. Okay. Just checking.
Did I
didn't
say
know.
Selves?
Selves. I was
Self.
like, whoa, are we dealing with DID right now?
No.
What's going on?
No. Oneself.
Oneself.
So.
Okay. Just checking.
So, do you feel comfortable or ready to give a little bit of your story that kind of affects your ability to trust yourself with others?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, are you talking about like boys or like?
Whatever you feel comfortable talking about. We can talk about.
Yeah, I always want to know about dating, like teenagers and dating.
It's a big thing.
Oh, I have a lot to talk about dating.
Boom, and then the podcast went off. Boom, go. Yeah, I want to hear.
It's about to explode in here.
Yeah.
Let's go.
It's gonna start off a little bit bad. This summer I was at Sunsplash with my best friends, and I decided to meet a boy there, and we went into the wave pool, and he like kind of pulled me away from my friends. My friend was talking to, well, my best friend was talking to one of her old karate friends, so she wasn't really paying attention to what was going on, and she trusted the guy I was with. Well, she obviously didn't know him, but she thought she could trust him. And he took me over like a little bit farther so that she couldn't see us, and he put me on his lap and started like doing stuff without consent. And so ever since then I kind of just like don't trust myself going around guys alone. I usually go with like my stepmom. I trust her, she's like my best friend. Or I go with my older brother. It just like depends, I guess.
So you said I don't trust myself around other guys. Can you talk more about that? Because I think a listener to this would be like, wait, don't trust guys, or like, wait, did she want to fool around with this guy, so now she can't trust herself? And so I kind of heard two different ways that maybe that could have gone. Can you like tell me a little bit more about this trust thing?
Well, so what was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought.
So this summer, you were at Sunsplash, and you were sexually assaulted, and things were done to you against your consent, and you feel that that's affected your trust. Can you elaborate more on that?
What I meant by what I said, I forgot what I said.
Trusting yourself.
Oh yeah, trusting myself or trusting other guys. I mean, like, I could have said no and I could have pushed him away from me, or I could have tried to fight it, but I didn't. And that's kind of what I mean by I don't trust myself, because I feel like that could happen again and I won't be able to say no or like stop it. So I didn't like, I guess that doesn't affect me trusting boys, but trusting myself.
Okay, but you cleared that up.
You did. First and foremost, it is not your fault. And when we get in situations where our bodies go into fight or flight and they don't know what to do,
Or freeze.
sometimes they make the wrong decisions, but that doesn't mean that it's your fault or that you could have done something different, because you were in a situation that was unfair, inappropriate, and unsafe for you. Okay, I want to make sure all of our listeners understand that it's not something you can do when someone else tries to harm or violate you. It is not your fault that it's happening. Okay, that's important for us to understand and our listeners to hear.
And a lot of things that happen that are highly emotional like that, and we get into our limbic system response. So that's that mid part of our brain that responds to like a fear situation or an excitement situation, like high emotion, anger, and serious attraction that all of a sudden goes really wrong really quick, and like your situation in the wave pool. People don't realize that when something bad happens to them, they feel guilty afterwards. And they don't realize that their brain goes into this protective mode for them, where it takes the front part of their brain, like that makes us humans, all of our processing, it totally shuts that area off. And then we blame ourselves because I didn't react, or I didn't stop him, I didn't push him away, or I didn't yell for help, and I just kind of froze and let it happen. Or like, well, I kind of enjoyed it, but I didn't really know what to do, and I just let it happen. And then you start to feel guilty for that. And when that part of your brain kicks in, you don't have the ability to really process the situation. And so knowing that your brain does that and it's an automatic thing sometimes can help deal with the guilt that you have, because you might not have really had control in that moment. And it's only after, when you get to think about it, like, why did I let that happen? Or why did that happen? I can't trust myself. And then we start to process it. But you got to realize that your brain took over and kind of just went into an emotional response. And we don't have full control over our emotional responses. So it's just, I think that's just important for people to understand.
And similar to the aspect of you getting sick before school. Like, you wanted to go, right? You were excited to go to school. Yeah. But what did your body do? Your body shut down. Your body was terrified. So that's just an easy prime example of how our minds and our bodies don't always align up and do what they need to do together, right? So that can be really scary. And thank you for sharing that with us and telling us what you went through. That's, we appreciate you being vulnerable with us here. Now, these are things that you are working on, being able to trust others and being able to be more social. What are some of your goals in therapy? Like, what is it that you're really wanting to get out of this?
I've been talking to my counselor, and we made some goals. One of my first goals was to go into a store by myself. Even if they're little goals, they still help. I keep losing my train of thought.
What's your big goal? What's your biggest goal? The one thing you really want when you can say, I don't need to see you this week because I've reached that big goal. Maybe we can check in later. What does that look like for you?
Like, are you saying long in the future?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I'd probably say graduating.
At an actual physical high school?
I don't know. I haven't decided that far. I feel like I'm doing good on independent studies, but it would be nice to graduate from a real school.
Reach that social aspect that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think are some barriers that are stopping you from reaching those goals?
From going to school?
From being able to be social like that, yeah.
Honestly, I don't know.
You don't know?
Yeah, I don't know.
What about the coping skills that you're working on?
So I want to bring up something. You guys mentioned panic attacks earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Would you say that panic attacks and the fear of having a panic attack is a barrier to you reaching that goal?
Yeah.
So how often are you having panic attacks? And are they specifically about school stuff, or is it panic attacks in general?
It's usually just about school, or like when I get really stressed out, then I start having panic attacks.
Okay. How many are you having? Like maybe last month. Did you have any?
I'd say like 3.
3?
Not that bad. Like.
And are they happening at school or are they happening at home?
I don't go. I'm homeschooled, so.
Well, but like because you said you go and you see your teacher once a week.
Oh yeah. Well, I go and I meet her at the library up in West Point, so it's really just me and her.
Oh, okay. So you've taken going on campus out of the equation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty smart.
Yeah.
To start. Yeah. So you're having panic attacks at home, or when you're out in public someplace?
Well, like when I'm out in public.
Okay. Well, that would be a barrier.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Some of those, talking about barriers, things that are getting in the way of like our coping and our coping skills. So having those barriers and being able to move past those, they kind of stop us from reaching what we want to do in order to cope with what's going on so that we can move past our trauma, our trust, our social anxiety, our self-esteem. So what are some coping skills that you feel like can help you push past those barriers?
Like things that I do. To, I weld. Like that distracts my mind a lot.
Whoa. Say that again?
I said I weld.
I weld. What?
Yeah. And I ride dirt bikes.
Wait,
with
what?
My dad. Sometimes I paint just random things just to clear my mind.
We have a Renaissance woman here in the studio right now. I weld, I paint, I ride dirt bikes.
She's very mechanically inclined too. Yeah.
Like you can fix engines and like.
Well, I help my dad. I can't fix them by myself. Yeah.
But she's very much into it and loves it, does really well. She likes to use her hands and really get into things. And I think that's something that is important for you to find that thing that brings you happiness and joy that can clear your mind, because it helps relieve that stress.
Yeah.
And taking that time to care for ourselves is important. Self-care is important. I know a lot of people think, oh, self-care, I don't have time for that. You don't have time not to do it. Like, it's so valuable, even if you take 5 minutes every day and do something that just feels great for yourself. I know you like to do a lot of hiking and fishing outdoors.
Wait, and you fish?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Mm-hmm.
You better not ever put any of this on like a dating app, because you'll have like guys banging down your door.
The catch catches a catch.
Yeah.
The catch can catch a catch. Look at that. She can bring you home dinner, too. Now, the question is, can you cook it?
I mean, I could probably cook it.
You think so? Yeah. Want to try your hand at it?
I'm not the best cook. But
Salt, pepper, and butter. That's all you need in
yeah.
life.
See, yeah.
Garlic. Got to add garlic and onion. All right. Salt, pepper, onion, garlic goes on everything.
I don't like onions.
No, onion powder, not the
Yeah,
actual
okay,
onion.
onion powder.
I don't like onion either, but I like the flavors. You can use onion powder.
Yeah.
Okay. So you like to do a lot of outdoor stuff. Keep yourself busy,
Yeah.
things like that to help you cope, to help you work through things. So now, what is something that if you're out and about, you're having one of the, you can feel the panic attack coming, what is something you can do in that moment to help you?
I just take a deep breath and just like think about what's going on and really
This is called prompting, ladies and gentlemen. Prompting.
I go to my I go to my safe place, and I think about my safe place, which is at the river, by like looking down at the river. We call it Macaulay Lookout, and I forgot. I think it's North Fork Macaulay River, and it's so pretty. It's my favorite spot. But every time I'm having like a panic attack or I feel it coming, I think about my safe place, and that's one of the things my counselor taught me to do.
Yeah, visual imagery is huge.
Mm-hmm.
It can take you out of the fear of the moment and put you in a place, right, that feels good. That's awesome.
Have you tried VR? Because it's intense. Visual imagery is like legit a thing, and it affects our brains so much.
My best friend's mom did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's therapies with VR. It's pretty cool.
It's intense altogether.
More studies coming out. So for people that are listening that are like, I have panic attacks. What is a panic attack? Or maybe somebody's going through like a horrible scenario where they are having a panic attack and they're like, I don't know what's happening to me. Can you describe, and panic attacks are different for everybody. Mm-hmm. They do have some similarities or some commonalities. Can you describe what your panic attack is, like the process? And I'm asking because if somebody's listening and they're like, oh my God, that's what's been happening to me. I'm having panic attacks. Can you describe that for you?
I don't really know how to explain it, but I'll try my best. Usually I don't think about the negative a lot, but when I feel a panic attack coming, I start thinking about every little bad thing, and my stomach, I get a weird feeling in my stomach, and my chest gets really heavy. It feels like I have a weighted blanket on my chest, and yeah, that's kind of it that I know of right now, that I can think of.
Does your breathing change?
Yeah.
Is it hard to breathe? You start hyperventilating? Do you breathe really shallow?
Sometimes it does. It's hard to breathe. I don't really lose breath, but
okay.
Yeah.
What about your vision? Does your vision go from being able to see everything, and does it get into a tunnel where you can only see a thin spot in front of you? Does it you have to look up? Anything happen with your vision? No, nothing with your vision. Do you have any fear involved with your panic attack? You feel like you're about to die? You feel like something bad's really going to happen in the next couple minutes?
No, I don't. It just comes. I can't. It's not really. I don't feel like anything's gonna happen. It's just my chest gets really heavy, and I feel like I'm gonna throw up. It's not yeah. I don't know.
Okay. No. That's good, because I was bringing up some of the commonalities, and not everybody experiences those. So yours is different. How long do you think they last?
Not that long. I breathe through. I take deep breaths through it, and it's 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Now
5
you're-
minutes can be a long time.
That can be. Before starting therapy and learning how to really cope with those situations and process through our panic attacks, you said they lasted all day at school. Like, what is the longest that you've had that just unsettling, sinking, throwing up feeling?
Definitely when I was going to school. It would last from the morning at like, I'd have to leave to the bus at like 6:30 to walk to the bus stop.
Okay.
So I was up by like 5:30, and it would last from 5:30 all the way till like 5:30 at night because I have to take the bus home and the bus there. So
Yeah, you know
That's
what we call
12
that?
hours.
We call that torture.
Yeah, that's
That's
12
torture.
hours of discomfort and torture. That is insane.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot to really process. But think about how far you've come. You went from having them for 12 hours to being able to process through it, and they only last 5 minutes.
In the
That's a
business, we
lot.
call that reduction of symptoms. So that's good. You're
It's
making
good.
progress.
It is.
Do
It's
you,
a big
do you think
breakthrough.
about that? Like, hey, I'm in a better spot than I was a year ago?
yeah, I definitely think about that. Not just about like the panic attacks, but like a year and a half ago, I think it was, I was living at my mom's, and I was like, was nothing like I am right now. I don't know what to say about it, or like,
Just express what happened. If you're ready and comfortable, just say.
I lost my train of thought.
So you said
This
last
time
year,
last year.
and then now you're at your mom's.
Oh yeah, last year I was in one of my deepest spots. I was going through a lot of medical stuff, and there's a lot of stuff going on with my parents. My stepdad, or not my parents, my stepdad and my mom. And my stepdad was abusing my little sisters, and I was just like, I felt so weak, and I didn't really do anything with myself. I kind of just sat home all day because my mom wouldn't let me. Didn't really have any friends. My mom just kept me home all day, and every time I asked her to go do something, she'd say no, and I'd get lectured about it. So now I try to do as much as I can. I go out and I go hiking and I ride dirt bikes and I try new things. Even though it's scary to try the new things that I try, I still do it because I know a year ago I wouldn't have done half the stuff I do now.
And I've heard maybe a couple different living situations. So that was with your mom. So are you now with your dad?
Yeah, my living situation has been complicated. My dad wasn't really around the first 10-ish years of my life, and then I started getting closer with him, 2018, and he started dating my stepmom, and he was an alcoholic, and she basically saved his life, and I decided that I was gonna go live with them because it got too bad at my mom's, and I basically ran away from my mom's house because if she knew that I was going, then
She would have tried to stop you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just told her that I was going to my dad's for the day, even though I had to fight her for that. And I put my backpacks outside, and I was like, okay, he's here, and grabbed my backpacks and left. And
Okay.
then I didn't go back.
So when your dad, so I'm assuming he's sober now?
Yeah, he's 5 years sober.
5 years sober. And that completely turned him around?
Yeah, he's such a different person. My dad is my best friend, definitely.
And
My
so
stepmom and my dad, for sure.
that's awesome. So he got sober, realized that you were important. Well, he probably always thought you were important, but just couldn't bring himself to do anything about it.
Yeah, it wasn't really his fault. It was my mom's. She pushed him away. So I know that he's always tried, and he'd always make the effort to come over. It was just my mom pushing him away and not letting him.
Yeah. That's one of the struggles with everybody, that when they've got parents that don't like each other and they've had so much trauma themselves in the relationship, and they turn each other into bad guys, and then that affects the kids in the house.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had a magic wand, right, that would be one of the things I would fix.
Right?
Yeah. I'm definitely able to, that, my parents and everything. My mom is really crazy. She is psychotic. I'm not gonna lie. Seeing things that she has done has made me be able to realize like so many people's red flags, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I notice a lot of things about people when I first meet them. I think that's another reason why I have anxiety, like social anxiety, is because I can see through people's BS, I guess you could say, and I
Ooh.
can see through their red flags.
So you're picking up on people's red flags, and you just see it all the time, and you're like, oh,
I guess so.
that person's crazy, psycho. They've got anger issues. You're picking people apart when you meet them.
No, I definitely, kind of.
I think it's a good thing. Do I have any red flags?
All over,
No.
Dalen, all over.
You can be honest.
You're pretty cool.
Okay. I passed the test. Can you sign my cool report card, please?
It's very important to him. He must do it. He's got to have it. So, back to topic at hand. Like we were discussing, you're discussing like your mom and what's been going on and how you're in a better place now. You have a good support system. Do you feel like that support system is something that helped you and encouraged you to come seek therapy?
Yeah. About like a year ago it was. In October 2021, I went to the mental hospital because of things with my mom, and a lot happened that week. And my dad, it was the day before mediation, and I talked to the mediator and I told her that I was having suicidal thoughts, which I wasn't, but my mom told me to say that so that I could go back to her house. It's a lot that goes to it, but ever since that day, he's been like really on my mental health, like, and he told me that I needed to get into therapy.
And this is your dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did the first time, and it was right after court when I met this therapist, and then like a week or so later, or actually no, it was like 2 or so months later, the next court date, she told me that we could have a session after the court date, and then we never did. So, but yeah, I don't know what I was saying. I forgot.
Well, your dad must have heard from the mediator that you were talking about suicidation, suicidality, thinking about it and all that stuff. So that sounded like it prompted your dad to go, okay, my daughter needs some help. We need to get her into a therapist.
Yeah.
And did it come out, though, that your mom had coached you to say these things?
Yeah, we submitted all the screenshots to court because she texted me a bunch of stuff saying, like, planning it all out, because I was supposed to go with my grandpa just for the day,
Mm-hmm.
and then he ended up taking me to Sacramento, which is where my mom lives, and then she told me to turn my phone off and told me, like, this whole story, and she was texting me on the way down there because there wasn't really any going back. I was already with my grandpa, and yeah, I don't remember what I was saying again.
So your grandpa was taking you to your mom?
Yeah,
And
because they live in the same house.
they live in, okay. So he was bringing you to visit, and then your mom was basically, she told you to turn your phone off. Is
Yeah.
that so she could like tell you some crazy stuff so she knew she wasn't
She
being
told me
recorded?
to turn my phone off so that she could call the cops and report me as a runaway. And I don't remember what happened after that because it didn't happen, but basically she was trying to get it to be reported that my dad kidnapped me, and then I ran back to her house because he kidnapped me. But he never kidnapped. It's a long
It was
story.
I get it.
It was
sounds like
heavy
she was
manipulation on
she
your
was
mom's part,
manipulating you. Yeah.
absolutely. And that can also play really heavy into our trusting those who we're supposed to, right? Our parents are people we're supposed to be able to rely on,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so that really plays heavy into being able to trust those.
So she's trying to get you as like, oh, you had to run away from your dad. Look, I'm helping her. Did you realize that she was full of snuff? Did you realize she was trying to manipulate the situation at the time?
No, I didn't at the time.
Okay.
I was like, I don't know. I was really dumb back then. Like, not dumb, but
I was
just like,
confused. I mean, it's confusing. So
Yeah.
when you have a parent manipulating you, it causes you to be in a state of confusion all the time because you don't know what the truth is. You don't know what's the motive here? Are they trying to help me? Because we want to trust our parents. We want to make sure, we want them to have our best interest at heart. And it's hard when they don't, and you start to realize that. It's like a type of gaslighting where what you think is completely different than what's actually happening. So that's super tough to go through that. So how did that situation fix itself? And obviously situations don't fix themselves, but how did it unravel?
We went to court and we submitted all the screenshots. My grandma also was texting me because it's actually my grandparents' house, but my mom lives with my grandparents and her 2 kids, my uncle and her husband.
That's a lot of people in a house.
Yeah, all in my grandparents' house.
Okay, and are your grandparents siding with your mom, or do they realize that she's crazy?
No, they are definitely siding with her now.
Okay, so they're on the juice too. Okay.
Yeah, recently we have another court situation going on for my stepdad and a restraining order. And she basically went to the courtroom. They got served the restraining order, and then like 2 or 3 days later, it was court. And my grandpa texted me the same day after court and told me that he's done. I was like, I'm sorry, I love you, I hope you're not mad at me. And he was like, I'm done, you move on with your life or something like that. And my mom gave up full custody in the courtroom on the 23rd.
She gave up full custody. So your dad has 100% legal custody of you.
Well, after the next court date, we have to get it transferred up to Calaveras County from Sacramento County for the next court date.
Okay.
But yeah, she stood up in the room and said he can have full custody.
Why did she do that? Like when she's been, crazy fighting for you and trying to manipulate you, then all of a sudden she's like, fine, you can have him.
I think it's because she just gave up at this point.
Oh.
I have been so distant from her because I've realized so much, like my whole entire childhood, she was lying to me about so many different things. And I was kind of just, over the summer, my best friend lives around the corner from her house, and they're like an hour and a half away. So I'd go to my mom's, and then like I'd use her as a ride. It sounds really bad, but I'd use her as a ride to go down to Sacramento. Like she'd come pick me up. Well, my stepdad would pick me up, not my mom. She'd never come when it was her weekend. And then I'd just go to my best friend's house because I felt so uncomfortable at my mom's, and I felt like I didn't belong there. I just felt like a fly on the wall ever since I moved away. So the visitation on the weekends just like kind of faded away.
And so you're completely done with her, right? You don't have to do visitations anymore?
No.
You mentioned having a restraining order. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. So my stepdad, growing up, he'd always smack my butt, and like in a sexual way, he'd laugh about it. And I don't think the restraining order, it can't be for my sisters, right? About him. Okay, no. Yeah, that's basically it.
So basically, growing up, there was a lot of inappropriate action between your stepdad and you have taken action to protect yourself and get that restraining order put in place so that you are no longer having to go there. You no longer have to put yourself in that environment, right? So you're moving forward, taking those steps to really put yourself first. So with you making those choices, okay, what is something you would recommend to your friend who feels like they have no other options and they need to fight for themselves? What would you say to them to encourage them to take the steps you have?
Like, for what? What do you mean?
To do what's best for your mental health. You've taken the steps to go to therapy. You've got a restraining order. You've gotten custody change. You're fighting for yourself. What is something that you would tell your friends to do if they feel like they have no other option and they're stuck somewhere and they need that encouragement? How would you encourage them?
Honestly, I don't know.
Think about your best friend sitting there. What would you say to her if she's in a place where she needs to get help?
I don't know, to be honest. I've never been in a situation like that. Like, I mean, I kind of have. I don't know what I do, though. I know when my best friend was cutting herself, I decided to text her mom and let her know about it. But I don't really know how I would give her advice other than that, because I don't really know what I'd be able to do.
Okay.
I think it's tough. You know,
Yeah.
It is.
And we ask that question just because as adults, when we talk to kids, it doesn't always sink in, you know, our advice. Like, hey, you need to talk to somebody to get help. Oh, okay. You know, one of the largest influences that teenagers have are on their peers, their friends. You know, I could say to your best friend, hey, you need some help. I know somebody that you could talk to that could be there for you, and, you know, give my therapy spiel. And then be like, mm-hmm, yeah, right. You could say the same thing and then be like, oh, maybe I should. Yeah. You know, but also we're also not insinuating that the responsibility should be on kids to get
Absolutely
their friends
not.
into therapy.
No, I
It's just
understand that.
we're just trying to figure out in your normal conversations with your friends, how is it that you help each other?
Yeah. What does that look like?
Depending on the situation, I usually just let I don't really know, because the only person I'd really be able to talk through things was my best friend, and we're not really friends anymore. So, but I feel like I lost my train of thought again. What did you guys say?
We're elaborating on the fact of how we're going to help our friends, how we're going to, if they're in a place like you are, right? Yeah. And they're going through struggles. And you did make a decision, right? By notifying your friend's mom and choosing to step back, you're giving your friend the space to work on their own mental health.
Yeah.
So that is something that, you know, you have done and you've taken the steps to do, right? Mm-hmm. So what did that's basically what we're asking you. What does that look like when your friend is struggling? What do you feel is important that you do?
I try my best to help them no matter what I can do, even if they're mad at me in the end about it.
Yeah.
Or,
you do what feels right.
yeah.
I think that's huge, even if they're mad at me.
Yeah.
They're, you know, because we never want our friends to be mad at us. I mean, it's almost like it's one of the biggest fears, having your friends get pissed at you so they don't talk to you, because that losing your friend, you know, or them not contacting you, it's like it's a loss of connection from one of the most important people that you have. But sometimes, like you said, you got to make that choice. Even if they're mad at me, I need to make sure that they're safe. I need to make sure that they're getting help. And if they're not willing to help themselves, you know, sometimes you have to talk to their parents.
And taking that step is very huge. It's a mature and, you know, responsible step to take. And so that's important that we remind others and our listeners that if you find that you have someone that you know could be in that situation where they are harming themselves, you know, if you can take the step to reach out to an adult or someone to get them help, then we encourage you to do so, to be able to help those.
It's definitely not easy, but that's kind of what ended mine and my best friend's relationship, or friendship, was because I texted her mom and told her she was cutting herself and that she was going to go on a drive after she called me hysterically crying. She didn't even take a breath at all. She was crying for 5 minutes straight. And she told me she was going to go on a drive, and that was really no.
That was it. She was going to do it?
Yeah, I was.
No, scary.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah. Well, we want to thank you for being here with us today and being able to be vulnerable and talk about what's going on. It's not always easy to express those things, and so we appreciate your time here today.
And your courage for talking about everything. It was amazing hearing your story. I'm really thankful.
We're grateful that we have you to help us encourage other teens to take those steps too. And that's what this is all about. Teen Talk with Dalen.
And Jessica. Bye, everybody.